Portugal, there's a YouTube show full of fun facts you need to know. Carl rings the bell and the members show to the GMP morning show. Featured guests will come and they will blow your mind. The audience will do so in kind. The little vanity mixed with some insanity on the morning show with GMP. Hey, Gumpers.
Woo! Oh, Mrs. M. Hello, this is unusual, isn't it, that we should start the show together on this Restoration Day in Portugal. How are you this morning? Hola, bon dia, alegria, Munson here, the Munson's here, with the Good Morning Portugal show, live stream and podcast. You're a bit sniffly.
You're big. Yeah, I
You are.
am a little bit. I've just had a sneezing fit. I thought it'd be nice to wear some perfume and sprayed some perfume and have given myself a bit of an allergic reaction. But hey,
Yeah.
what I can smell in front of me smells great. And while
Some
you were
hormone-
just setting up the show, I was just trying to. I didn't hear you then. That's weird.
I just said some hormone disruption.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely some hormone disruption. But I was just trying to do a sneaky Befana meme while you were setting up the show, and I just haven't quite got around to it.
Very impressive. Very impressive. Okay, the round to it. They've wanted
Yeah.
to have a present at Christmas, the round to it. I was once given one of those I wasn't given one of those. I was being sold some life insurance at a bank, and the guy in the bank picked something up from his desk and said, "Do you know what this is?" And I said, "No." Well, it wasn't a biscuit; it was a round shaped object. And he said, "It's a round to it," and that's how it is with insurance. Everyone gets around to it in the end. And I think it was a kind of bit of a hard sell, but I didn't buy it. But incidentally,
Sounds like a bit of a
anyway.
dad joke guy.
Right. Yes, he was. He was a jolly fellow. He's unlike the sort of bank managers you find in the modern age. He didn't quite have his tweeds and smoke a pipe. He wasn't that kind of bank guy, but he was certainly the intermediate type between the online person you never see now at the bank and the old school guy who would shake your hand and want to send you away with lots of money in your pocket. Anyway, so you okay now? Your hooter has settled down, is it? Hooters.
I think so. Actually, I'm just going to step out for 2 minutes or so and just make sure I'm okay.
Oh, really?
Okay?
Oh, she's playing with us this morning. Okay, that's interesting.
Well,
we
you're going
have-
to be saying a lot of happy greeting type things and saying hello to people, and I'll listen to it in the background.
Okay, well, what I think I might do in your absence, and you can deputize for yourself in a strange sort of way. We've got a very interesting show lined up anyway. Let me just do that and say a few hellos to everybody. You're stepping out by staying here. Interesting. Okay, Dougie's here. James is here. T-Duck is here as well. Deagle, good morning to you all. Thank you very much for being here on this Restoration Day here in Portugal. Francis as well. Antonio F. Thank you all so much for being here. It is, of course, the day, as T-Duck told us early on this morning, Restoration Day. Happy Restoration of Independence Day. So it's not really called Independence Day. It is Restoration of Independence from an Iberian landmass or rule on the 1st of December, 1640. Okay. And for me, I've got to say, it's the restoration of the sun this morning. I was out walking the dogs. Didn't do that yesterday because it was raining so much. And it has rained so much for so long, it feels like. And just this morning, when I was out with the dogs, I looked across the one of the areas of open space, open land here, and I could see the sun shining through the grasses, the tall grasses, and I just thought, I remember you. So it's a restoration of the sun as far as I'm concerned today. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? I just paused for a moment for a bit of sun worship. And so there you go. If you want to do a sun salutation of any kind and feel that in your heart chakra or anywhere in your body, really, take that in for a moment, if you will. Coming up at 9 o'clock this morning, today, it is our LGBTQ special with Fabrizio and Ian, who join us every. It's the 1st of December, of course. So it's okay to talk about Christmas now. I know we've slipped a little bit. I've been back and forth. We know that Mariah Carey has had a MRI Carey scan. So it's safe to talk. She's fine. You'll be hearing those jingly bells soon, I'm sure, if you haven't already in the supermarkets, that is, since after Halloween. But yes, let's start talking about Christmas. The festive season is upon us. And today it's our LGBTQ Portugal special with Fabrizio and Ian. They join us first Thursday of the month on Indie Portugal Thursday. And they're going to talk about what it's like to be part of the LGBTQ community. Because I need to ask him as well. I think there's an I, isn't there, and an A and a plus in there in recent times as well. So I need to understand that for myself, and it will be great to find out. Because we haven't done this before, what it's like to be part of the LGBT community living in Portugal. Is it a safe and happy place to come? So there you go. Looking forward to speaking to Fabrizio and Ian at 9 o'clock. Yes, and Mrs. M has sent us a lovely video this morning as well. She's sneezing, putting on perfume and doing stuff like that in the other studio. And she's been up. I've got to tell you, she's been up late last night and early this morning working on her latest masterpiece in the Migration Stories series. Here's a little short from that. I don't mean to refer to Josh or Kaylee's little shorts, but actually, Kaylee, we found out when we spoke to her a long time ago, was a footballer, so she may have little shorts. Who knows? But anyway, this is not about their footballing careers. I think Josh was a football coach, soccer coach. This is them talking about migration as part of the epic Migration Stories series that Mrs. M is creating. You will have seen Louise's what's she, expat 50 plus solo. So anyway, Louise's video you'll have seen released last week, and this is Mrs. M's video with Josh and Kaylee, which will be released later on today. Here's a little teaser from it now, and I hope she'll be able to join us after.
Yeah, I don't think that you ever know that a place is going to feel like home until you really spend time there, right? I think you can go on holiday and feel like, yeah, I'd like to live here, which we do that. We always travel to a place and we ask ourselves, could we live here or not? But then, that also begs the question, like, how long can you live there? Because we don't consider ourselves nomadic, but we do like to move around and consider ourselves expats in the sense that we don't move to a place with the intention of being there the rest of our lives. It's not a long-term move, but a short or medium-term move.
So, Mrs. M, what's going on? We have been moving things around. Let me try that again. No, Mrs. M, we can't. So I can see you. Oh, yeah, but there you are now. What time is that premiering tonight, Mrs. M? She doesn't know she's on the screen, does she? What should we do with this?
10 o'clock.
This evening.
There's a delay between us. I have no idea. Do you know what, love? I think the Wi-Fi in this new office is really slow.
Do you? You've turned from slightly out of focus into better focus, but it's not the best, is it? We're going to have to do a little bit. I think we'll have to do some hard wiring.
Definitely.
We've moved things around. We've moved Studio B, and it's not going terribly well. But 10 o'clock tonight is when Josh and Kaylee's Moving Stories will premiere tonight on our YouTube channel. Good morning, Portugal.
Please
right?
Excuse me.
Oh. Well, okay, she's not going to be here to hear greetings from Nuna this morning. Hi, Carl. Hi, Louisa. Good morning, everyone. Let me just chill and relax here. Flipping heck, that was hard work so far this morning. Deagle's in. Bon dia, Carl and Gumpers from a dark, cool Belfast. 7 degrees overnight, 1st of December. For some, is the start of winter, but officially it starts on the 21st of December. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yes, the longest night, of course, the darkest day of the 21st of December. And for many people, of course, it does feel like winter has already begun. Bon dia, Alegria Gumpers from T-Duck at just after 8 this morning, and a busy day whereby, even though, look, he's not going to be here, I think, for the early part of the show, or some of it anyway, he is putting all this information for us to enjoy and be entertained and educated by into the chat before he's popped out this morning. At least it's not raining, he says. I absolutely agree with that. Isn't it fantastic to see some sun in the sky this morning? I hope that's the case where you are. Deep thought then from T-Duck: to appreciate the beauty of a snowflake, it is necessary to stand out in the cold. And I don't think that means snowflake in the new woke battle sense, the culture wars that I think Aristotle was truly talking about, the geometrical miracle. that is a snowflake. It is necessary, if you want to appreciate the beauty of a snowflake, it is necessary to stand out in the cold. I like that. What does that suggest to you? That some appreciation sometimes takes a little bit of contrast, maybe even a little bit of suffering. Aristotle, of course, was a Greek philosopher and a polymath during the classical period in ancient Greece. Portuguese saying, which I think is great as well. Thank you for this, T-Duck. Dezembro frio, calor no estio. December is cold. If December is cold, you will experience summer heat. Bit of a red sky in the morning kind of vibe there. If December is cold, the summer will be hot. And Portuguese friends here, Nuno, Antonio, can you tell us if that is true, or is it just a way of cheering people up in December? Hugo Nuno, the restoration of Independence Day is a national holiday in Portugal today, of course, commemorating when the country regained its independence after 60 years of Spanish occupation. The war between Portugal and Spain began in 1640 with the Portuguese Revolution and ended with the Treaty of Lisbon in 1668. We have dad jokes to come, with actually dad jokes left over from yesterday, because we didn't do those, I don't think, with Mrs. M and Emma and Mrs. M. What a fantastic show that was yesterday with live music from Emma. If you didn't see that, please do watch that on replay later today. Really, really moving performance and joyous performance from Emma Belter yesterday. Oh, okay. Right. Yeah, that is a dad joke. It's not really T-Duck ordering some Scotch whiskey from Amazon. That's a bit like that one, which I'll come back to, is a bit like, yeah, I won Choir Boy of the Year, you know. He was an annoying little fella, so I sent him home again. James, Slug Thug, put it on a mug. Bom dia, Gampus. Feliz quinta a todos. Como va tudo? Very well. Muito bem, obrigado. And a lovely day at the meetup yesterday. It was wet, as T-Duck's been talking about. It's been raining, it feels like, for months now here on the Silver Coast. And it was no exception yesterday. A rainy, damp day. But we filled the newly opened or newly reopened Palmera Cafe with Gumper, life, love, and laughter yesterday from 1 o'clock. Lovely little gathering. Thank you to everybody who came to that. Your cue this today, then, from Slug Thug, put it on a mug. The world is complicated, says Marianne Williamson. But love is not. The world is complicated, but love is not. No matter what the problem, love is the answer. Pour love on everything and watch things change. I'll take extra love on that, please. Why not? As well as ordering your molio picante, why not order extra love in the restaurant or cafe today? Yes, let's splash love over everything this morning. Fantastic. That's really wonderful from the wonderful Marianne Williamson. And talking of inspiration and love being in the air, I'm not sure actually if I heard the word love mentioned during my appraisal of some fourth turning videos. Of course, we declared that we were officially in the fourth turning yesterday, which is the best of times and the worst of times, quite frankly. I guess the fourth turning and the part that we're in, if you bothered to find out after Nick, what do I call it? Want to call him Nick Williams? That's somebody else. Will Thompson. If you were prompted by Will Thompson to look up the fourth turning yesterday, as I was, you'll discover that we are in the darkness before the dawn, possibly. And what inspired me about that was how the part we can play in that, rather than being victims of this particular history cycle. If you're interested in the fourth turning, you'll find that there are basically 80 or 90 year patterns for humanity. That's about the length of a lifetime, isn't it? Oh, and we should also mark the passing of Christine McVie, who passed away yesterday, talking of 80 and 90 years cycles. We'll come back to Christine McVie because, of course, she had a Portuguese partner, Eddie Quintela, I think his name was. But anyway, I digress. R.I.P. Anyway, Christine McVie, a great loss from the music world yesterday from Fleetwood Mac. Wrote one of my favorite tunes, You Make Loving Fun. Anyway, where was I? Fourth turning, 80 or 90 year cycles, and within those cycles of around 20 years. And we are in perhaps the most eggy of those cycles at the moment. The crisis part of the fourth turning. What would it be? Not an ideology. Not especially interested in ideology right now, but observation, research, historical analysis of how we human beings work, especially in Western civilization. The fourth turning, I commend it to you. I think it's a very good idea for understanding the context that we're in and what we might do about it in these interesting times, as the Chinese might call them. Okay, it ain't over until it's over. Yogi Berra. Was that another Yogi Berra? Fantastic. Well done, Yogi Berra. Keep those coming. Thank you, Slug Thug James. Put it on a mug. Deagle. Meteorological winter begins the 1st of December. Okay. 21st is obviously winter solstice, which of course means that we begin to gain daylight in the northern hemisphere. And isn't that a wonderful thing? Now that's interesting. Okay, so different definitions of winter there. Meteorological winter begins today. Coach Turner's here with a bon dia gumpus to Dubai and the God Score tip of the day. I saw one of our neighbors yesterday, a man who is recently retired and struggles to keep his weight under control. He's been diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. He has been on 800 calories a day, a particular diet here then, for 2 weeks and has lost a stone. My goodness. How long's it taken for him to do that? And he's calorie counting. I have to say, I'm not a fan of the calorie counting as a way of dieting. But anyway, that seems to be working for this gentleman. Clearly, his is an extreme case. I believe in making little changes gradually. Over time, you become used to less. I think that's less food, isn't it? Which doesn't mean you need to drop the quality or taste of your food. It's just the amount of it, isn't it? Quality over quantity, perhaps, when you're a bon vivant. I find I don't need to eat as much anyway. I was thinking that the other day. I don't know. I mean, I think there are probably quite a few people here who might have one big meal a day and maybe do a little bit of foraging or grazing for the rest of the day. I certainly don't eat as much as I used to. And my mind was drawn back to when I would eat massive bowls of pasta and lots of it. And I realized, I think as well, that it was a bit of a sort of nervous habit to eat a lot of food. It was a kind, not an addiction exactly, but certainly a dysfunctional pattern to cram myself full of food and to satisfy some sort of yearning or craving. I must have different ways of doing that now. Francis, bon dia todos, feliz quinta-feira. My Francoisism, what's this? Francoisism for today, I get it. I'm as different to you as you're different to me, and this is the place where kindness should be. That sounds like yes, okay, Francoisism, a Dr. Zeus. That's exactly what I was thinking as I was reading that rhyme. So that is the hybrid of where Francis meets Dr. Zeus. I'm as different to you as you're different to me, and this is the place where kindness should be. Not bad at all, and very appropriate for the conversation we'll be having with Fabrizio and Ian this morning. Antonio, bon dia todos, from Antonio this morning. How are you, my friend? Tudo bem? And como estás? And crazy group games yesterday in the World Cup. Well done, France, Australia, yes, Argentina and Poland for making it through. Very good. Any more analysis about the World Cup? We gratefully receive, Francis. Thank you for that. And we have a little bit on our website as well, goodmorningportugal.com. Click on World Cup 2022, where we've been adding a few things as well with a bit of World Cup analysis to keep it away from taking up too much time on the morning show here. That way you have more control. Okay, there was a little bit of a flurry of messages. This continuing on the neighbor of Coach Turner, who has been diagnosed with type 2 diabetes and has been on a crash diet of 800 calories a day. If however, you take a less extreme approach, which Coach Turner, of course, espouses, making little changes gradually, the baby steps that Phil Cooklin talks about, of course. I think that's where it can be very helpful, and where sustainable change is founded and anchored is in having an intention and baby steps. We do talk about this quite a lot, and I think it's a useful principle. But if you do that, if you take little changes or install little changes and do it gradually, you have more control, I think Coach Turner is saying here, and you're much less likely to yo-yo from one extreme to the other. Yes, well said. I think the research shows that. I used to do a medical podcast with Dr. John Briffer years ago, and I really enjoyed that. And that was certainly one of the takeaways. He was not a big fan of diets, as I recall, but more, yes, installing behavioral change. The word diet has die in it, for goodness sake. Matty, bon dia Gumper, sunny here in Pombal today. The sun is out for everyone. This is fantastic. Hola, bon dia, gang. Going to be a wet one. Who doesn't like a wet one first thing in the morning? That's certainly the case in Portimao. And that lovely photo you shared yesterday Where is it? Oh, I've deleted it already. Let me just bring these onto the screen. We've got quite a few to share with you. The continuation of Martin and Jojo's trip to the Serra da Estrela. But look at that. There you go. That was Portimao yesterday, but I imagine it looks quite a lot like that this morning as well. Beautiful picture. Thank you very much. Is that Catedral? Is not a religious building, is it? I don't think. Is that one of the great bars of Portimao, Catedral, to the right of your picture there? That's a beautiful photo. Thank you very much for that, for the Gumper Gallery. When I get round to it, there's another round to it mentioned this morning. Anyone got one of those at home, around to it? Okay, thank you very much, Victoria. Nunu's here with a good morning to James, Randy, Matty, Antonio, and everyone else, I'm sure. And Marcus is here too, PT Country Bear, Bon Dia Alegria. Now, I've got a picture of your pellet boilers for some reason. Why would I have that, Marcus? I wonder. But here's some interesting consumer information. The message that came through yesterday was, I think you'll recognize these, Marcus, at Salguero de Lomba and your 2 pellet burners. It's not often. Is that technically the first Christmas card I've received? Weird, but great. Thank you, though, Bill and Marcus. Bon dia on the 30th of St. Andrew's Day, 30th of November 2022. And you sent that message in. Let me find that, because the useful consumer information is that pellets have gone up from €4 a bag last year. Talk about the fourth turning and the time of crisis and great change. €4 a bag last year to €10 a bag this year. They are taking the what's it, aren't they? With a price hike of that kind. I think that's a little bit of taking advantage there. What's that called? Rampant and unchecked capitalism. The problem is, once you've installed your wood pellet burners, what are you going to do about it? You've got to buy the fuel, haven't you? And there they go. They've created a consumable which you have to consume and bear the price change from €4 a bag to 10 in just a year. Incredible. Hi, Paul. A special hi to you, Paul, from Nuna this morning, and greetings from the Algarve. Great fun featuring that property that you sent me on the Good Morning Portugal website on our Portuguese Homes tab. I love that video. I might play it on here tomorrow on Feel Good Friday. Yeah, it'd be good fun to play that tomorrow morning. Jenny B joining us tomorrow, of course, on the Feel Good Friday. It'd be great to be talking to Jenny B again. It's been a while. Greetings from the Algarve from you. No rain here. Well, not yet. And that, where was that? Villamora, that luxury home. And it's so great that you thought of me as soon as you saw it. I like that. I like that affirmation, confirmation of how you see me there. Paul, thank you very much. Oh, had a string of lights go off on my Christmas tree already, thinking they got wet while watering the live tree. Be careful. Got to run out for a replacement. Lighting, I think Christmas lighting has got better, isn't it, with the advent of LED lights and not having to, when one of the bulbs went out back in the day, you had to go through all of them, didn't you? But they have got a lot more reliable, unless, of course, you water them, like Victoria seems to have done this morning. Popping down the Chinese shop, are we? Down to the Chingados, I wonder. Regarding LGBT life here, we've always been accepted everywhere we go in Portugal. Glad to hear it, Marcus. There is a lot. There's less of an organized gay life than in the US. What does that mean? What's an organized gay life then? Is that sort of gay community happenings and things going on? Perhaps more informal here in Portugal. That's interesting. Thank you for that comment. More to come from Fabrizio and Ian later on, how it is to be in the LGBTQ community here. Antonio, yes, sun now. But the rain is on its way. Is that the forecast? Should we have a look at our own weather forecasts? We haven't done that for a while, have we? And see what's going on in the south there and the rest of the country. I think I will do that, because let's not get ahead of ourselves. Just because it's sunny this morning doesn't mean it's going to stay that way. I'll bring you the weather in just a moment before we go to our friends Fabrizio and Ian, who may be waiting for, let me just check as well that they've got the link. That was unfortunate, wasn't it? That link with Mrs. M this morning. Well, I think we've got some hard wiring to do, and send me the link. Yeah, I'm glad I checked. They would have been sitting there waiting for my link if I hadn't popped over to Facebook. Okay, there you go, Fabrizio and Ian. That's over to you. You may be tuned in already as well. Thank you very much. We may finish today with a video from Andy Klein as well. Episode 18 of our expat journey. The hardest part, which is waiting. Stop it, sniggering. The hardest part of migrating to Portugal is the waiting, as Andy is finding. And the clients are not alone in that at the moment, in having to wait for their D7 to come through, the first part of their permission to come and be in Portugal. And we're going into Christmas time. That possible strike with CEF, the regular problems we seem to be having with CEF as well. They're just building up. So the waiting is getting harder for people, and perhaps there's more we can do to help people. I mean, there's not much we can do about how CEF are responding and whether people go on strike, but we can certainly offer a soothing, comforting balm, can we not, to those who are waiting, and help ease their stress a little bit. And maybe for those people who've been through that process as well, to help them out a little bit too. It's an from Canada, from Taxi. Taxi is a naughty boy. I think Suze was defrosting some steaks recently, and little Taxi thought it was a snack for him, perhaps, on the countertop there. And when Suze came back, that's the worst part of it, isn't it? Defrosting that lovely food I'm going to eat. Right, where is it? Oh, it's not where I left it. There's just an empty Tupperware or packet on the floor where my dear dog has mistakenly thought that little snack was for them. Naughty boy, Taxi, but good morning to you. The Bifana eaters at the Tower of London. What does that mean, Doug? Carrying on with our wonderful Bifana fun. Give me hope, Bifana, you saw earlier on, if you were here from the get-go on the show this morning. Having a lot of fun with Bifana Week, and not least with Bifana Slug and Bifana Rama. And I will be putting a few of these memes together in a video as usual for this week. We're going to be doing Frango Week soon. We might carry on Bifana Week into next week. Look, there's Bifana the Vampire Slayer. Tee-hee. Very good. T-Duck been very busy with those. Moaz is here as well. Fantastic to see you, Moaz. Bon dia, Carl. Y a todos this morning. And no rain in the Algarve yet is the weather report from Paul. Let's just have a very quick look at that weather then. And while we're talking about every time I hear of this holiday on the 1st of December, the restoration of Portuguese rule away from Spain. And thank you for this, Nuno. Yes, Carl, you say Portugal was never part of Spain, only governed by Spain for a while. So it wasn't turned into one great big Spanish state. There was just the government of Spain, or by Spain, of Portugal until 1640. But I mistakenly, when the prof, remember the prof, and this day in Portuguese history, when he first told me about the restauradores, I thought it was a celebration of restaurant workers, much to my shame and embarrassment now, I have to say. Okay, here is the weather then, before we go to talk to Fabrizio and Ian this morning. Weather then, just very quickly around the country. Come on, share button, do your thing. Excellent. Okay, here it is. Let's scroll down and see what's going on in the principal parts of the country then. Lisbon is 10 degrees at the moment. That's 50 of the Fahrenheit. And it's looking like the sun is going to be returning in earnest, lucky earnest, tomorrow, Friday and Saturday. And then a little bit more rain on Sunday, and a sunny Monday. Temperatures rising to 16 degrees, the high in Lisbon. Porto, 15 degrees will be the high today, and 3 days of sunshine. That's fantastic. The rain returning Sunday and Monday, and for the rest of next week, by the look of it. Coimbra will have a high of 15 today, currently 9, starting off at 7, and 3 sunny days with the rain returning on Sunday. It might be possible to do a few jobs in the garden this if you're tidying up your garden. Actually, that reminds me, I've got to show you a picture Coach Turner took of the Alentejo, talking about tidying up the garden. Faro is raining, or will be today. That's the forecast anyway, but very mild at 16 degrees and a sunny day tomorrow. And up in the north in Braga, look, the best of it. A clear sunny sky today, bit chilly at 7 degrees, but it will rise to 15, 13, 12 and 11 as we go through Friday, Saturday and Sunday with 4 sunny days ahead. Isn't that fantastic? And then quickly then a look at this wonderful shot from the Alentejo. Things go so slowly in the Alentejo apparently that they still haven't tidied the garden. Look at these. It's like a massive Zen garden in the Alentejo there, isn't it? So that's a beautiful pic. Forgot to show that before. Thank you very much for that, Coach Turner. Got there in the end with that. Nice big round of applause then. Because two lovely smiles from the capital this morning, Fabrizio and Ian. How are you both?
We're good, thank you very much.
Excellent.
You timed that just right. The sun just came out, so there you go.
Has it been soggy for what feels like weeks in the capital?
A bit, yes.
And how do you cope with that?
We don't go out.
Good luck. Duvet days, one after another.
Yeah. A bit of Netflix and some old episode on the Goggle box and
Really?
yeah. We adjust our VPN. We watch a lot of that shit.
Yes,
And
yeah, well, that's a bit like our wine club. We'll be having our next wine club on the 5th of December, and some people have likened that to Gogglebox, but Gogglebox with wine. So you can imagine how that turns out. You may want to join us for that one of these days. But yeah, they're hilarious. Those people have become kind of national treasures, haven't they?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely,
definitely. Yes,
that's how we catch up with television and British politics and through.
He gets upset. He's got a lot to get upset about. Let's face it. All right. What else? Have you got any other recommendations for us then from Netflix at the moment?
What did we watch that was rather good? We watched one thing, but I don't remember the title of it.
The Italian one
is an Italian 4 or 5 episode drama about this kid waking up in a psychiatric hospital.
Sounds like fun.
Sounds a lot of, but it's actually quite beautiful. We watched the 4 or 5 episodes all at the same time, and as soon as I remember the name of it, I will post it, but don't bank on that.
you know, somebody else will as well. So
yeah,
and any other recommendations at the moment for these wet days when you just want to stay under the duvet and watch Netflix? Please pop those into the comments and into the chat, everybody, if you will. So great to have you here, Fabrizio and Ian. It's our long overdue special, isn't it, to look at life when you're a part of the LGBTQ community here in Portugal and what it's like to be part of that community here in Portugal. We've been meaning to talk about this for a while, and of course, I think you were prompted to get in touch and say, "Come on, let's do this." What with the World Cup being on and the controversy that has stirred up. So where do we begin? I think maybe with definitions, because I've been struggling. I've been saying LGBT, and I've been getting all mixed up with my abbreviations. Then when I'm looking it up, it's getting longer.
And there's a plus at the end usually, but there is.
It looks like a mathematical equation now. So can we break it down and kind of review a little bit? Because sometimes when you go into abbreviations and acronyms, and then a lot of assumptions are made, and of course, in assumption comes a lot of trouble. I think when I was first aware of this, excuse me. I think we were just talking about lesbian and gay, weren't we? Yeah. And then it was LGB. So can we break it down and go through all the abbreviations to really understand the community we're talking about?
Sure. So I'm trying to address all the letters in the right order. So it's lesbian, gay, bisexual, transsexual, queer, and queer.
You for queer, right? Okay.
Yeah.
And for those who don't know, what is the difference between a queer and gay, for example? Then forgive my ignorance, and that's
no, it's absolutely cool.
It's important that we do this so people do understand exactly what we're talking about.
No, it's absolutely queer. I think that the queer will encapsulate or cover everything that is not potentially classifiable by any other denomination.
Okay, all right, and
so it's a broad identity that doesn't go through the
part of the recognition as well.
Cisgender heterosexual identity.
And basically that's what's happening now, isn't it? We've broadened the definition here to include lifestyles or approaches, sexualities that are not included within the regular kind of heterosexual.
Exactly, genders come into it rather than everything else. I think that's the big one that's changed everybody.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So I guess that's been a little bit of politicking within and with outside the community, and of course, the battles and debates do rage around this. But what we're talking about this morning is what it's like to be as part of this community in Lisbon. Although you may want to contextualize that, from the rest of the world, which of course is what's happened with the World Cup.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. And I think as well, the other one to add on to that, of course, is this also became, because we spoke before about our sort of migratory path of coming here.
Yeah.
And that's also a factor that, we wanted to tell people about as well in this, as a thing of how you approach that, because obviously that's, if you're in that community, it's a big thing. It's one thing to be thinking about moving to a country. It's another set of rules that you've got to start to apply of how will you be accepted when you get there.
Yeah, indeed.
So obviously that can change from country to country.
Yes.
And also it was a big factor about that we considered, looking at different options about countries to move to. And is one thing that we considered. We were quite surprised about what we actually found before moving.
Yes.
And
Really?
even more surprised about what we found once we were here, because we live in town. We live in Lisbon, and we live within the city palimpsest, with the city dynamics, and we don't live in any sort of expat enclave. So our peers or our exchanges culturally and socially, they are with the Portuguese society.
Yeah. Okay, so tell us a bit more about that then. The whole journey of how you would have made sure that we're talking about feeling safe, basically, aren't we? That's the bottom line here, right?
In a way,
yes,
and also feeling equal in a way.
Yeah.
And feeling that you are part of a society which doesn't look at you in any different way in terms of legislation, in terms of law, in terms of right, in terms of social respect, than anyone else.
That's right. Yeah. But then, of course, on the top of that, you've got the next stage, which is the fact that it's one thing to legislate against something. It's another thing to actually have people's opinion towards something.
Of course.
I mean, especially when you come, it is one thing to consider, obviously, when you're going to a country and you're not going to understand the language, because at certain points you're going to think, I could be in a situation where I'm not understanding as well what's going on. So could I put myself into a position in certain other countries? Could I put myself into a position?
Yes.
Which is not putting me in a safe place. And I don't realize, just because I'm not really listening or understanding or, that kind of thing. So it is a difficult consideration from that aspect, more than just reading the thing and saying, oh, it's a tick in the box there to say, yes, it's acceptable to be gay. There's a whole, there's even more than that afterwards.
Yeah. Okay. Well, tell us about your experience, if you will, then. So this was obviously a high priority to understand what the culture might be like that you were moving to. How did you do that? I mean, coming here and being here and being on holiday here, I guess would have been and we talked about this before, didn't we? You have a long history of your relationship with Portugal, but from the LGBT point of view and feeling safe and accepted, how did that begin, that process, and how might others do that?
Well, I think that I can tell you where our positive opinion or our positive experience come from. And we were talking about this with a friend of mine the other day, and we were talking about racial differences and racist approach. And she mentioned this writer that say, well, the real wounds don't come from stab wounds, but from paper cuts.
Wow.
And when we talk about that, we could say apart from the broader spectrum about law and legislation, is the small interaction that we do have with people. When, for example, we started the process of buying our own home, for example.
Yes.
And the fact that on the contract is literally stated there, myself and Ian, we are married in this close, and then it's listed the fact that we are not only partners, but the word married is in our description of the contract. Is the fact that when it comes from the easiness of relating to people, come from the fact also that I go, for example, to the bank, and the bank will require me to sign a contract of an account that we do have together, and I say, well, I do have to come back because my husband has to sign this with me. And I don't know, that sort of flinch that comes from people is a fraction of a second.
Yes.
It's not an aversion. It's just somehow a kind of reaction that is an unexpected word or a situation which they don't know in the right fraction of a second how to address, because you do, a male, say that you're waiting for your husband to sign that. And that sort of flinch, that sort of reaction, that sort of fraction of a second, we rarely encounter it, if ever.
Wow, that's great.
Between companies. I mean, even, the first time you went into the solicitor the first time, sometimes it's just that thing. And I mean, even when we got an accountant, when we started up the company and that kind of thing, we went in and the lady said, okay, sorry, so are you certain there's two people? Are you married or you? She'd never met us before. So it was a strange question to ask, like immediately. It's like, oh, are you together? Are you married? Yeah. Okay. It wasn't even like an afterthought about it. And occasionally I have had that kind of conversation. I can go back to maybe something in the UK and I've said, oh yeah, sorry. And there's, Fabrizio and Ian is the other name, and they're going, oh, that's Mrs. Is it? It's like, no, it's Mr. And she, oh,
I was still Mr.
There's always that guy. Yeah, there's always that. Yeah, exactly. There's always that. Oh, Mr. Oh, you married? You know what I mean? There's always that secondary question. Oh, yes, it's so nice that you can do.
Well, Darren is picking up on this point, I think, here. I noticed.
Yeah, so he's always a bit.
Kept asking me about my wife, even though I kept saying my partner is a man. However, Pete says estate agents are the same everywhere. That's estate agents.
Okay, that covers so much.
Darren J, I know, says Moaz. Sometimes that's annoying as well. Pete has another comment that he's making here. For a Catholic country, Portugal is absolutely amazing. Amazingly accepting, says Pete. How do you both think it compares to Italy? So, of course, there'll be comparisons to be made here from coming from the UK, and of course you're Italian, Fabrizio. And I guess we might make a more general point about Europe. I don't know, maybe it's too much of a generalization, but and that prompts me to ask the question, where would you have the highest and best benchmark? Do you think the UK is pretty good, and how is Italy?
Well, Italy's pretty bad.
Right, okay.
Pretty bad. There's no in place a law that protects any hate crime against gay LGBTQ people.
Yeah, it's been one that's been under debate for a long time, and they keep rejecting it and saying, it shouldn't. Which is quite surprising. I think the thing is, Italy's come quite late to the game as well.
But adoption is not in place, for example. The possibility to adopt, the equality in terms of marriage, but it's not. You see, there's one other thing about the marriage, which is not just the act of marrying someone you love, is the perspective that you do have in terms of law and legislation. If your partner suddenly pass away, or if what happened to and all this stuff that comes with the fact of being a couple and having a life together, building a life together. And in Italy, that system is not in place, and it's a very stupid duality. Because a lot of figures that are the most domestic interpretation, or what do you say? The more digestible, the more comedy related figure close to the gay identity, there seems to be quite accepted and quite visible on television and comedies and all the other things. And then the reality of being an individual that live a life that is not a heterosexual life, it seems to be absolutely refused and seems to not be equal. And I guess a lot to do, who mentioned a Catholic country, yes, a lot to do has to do with the fact that the church has a big influence in everybody's life. Very true.
Yes.
There's also, we've seen from the election at the moment that Italy is within this core a very right-wing country.
Yeah.
The word of family, it will not apply to me and Ian, or to our kids if we had any. Family is a mother and a father, and she works more than likely, as she does, but more or less she doesn't. And the kids they go to school and all this stuff, you see. So that I would say
that's fascinating, isn't it? Because something you said there, it seems to be often the journey of a minority group. It's like, we'll take your humor, we'll take your music, or we'll take some other aspect of your creative expression, but we're not going to take your lifestyle just yet. You're going to have to fight a bit harder for that. And that's just it seems to be a well-worn pattern, doesn't it, in humanity in terms
absolutely
of
as long as you stay in the figure that help my agenda to either be entertained or to, I don't know, for my hair to be in the right place. As long as and I got nothing against roles. You know, that is very true that there's a high percentage of gay hairdressers or gay fashion stylists, not the other thing. But the society will go ahead and would be more with a broader spectrum when we actually realize that electricians and bus drivers and doctors and teachers, that's one of the main things, are equally as gay people, and therefore for that embodiment of reality has to also be embraced.
Okay, so Italy not then. Yeah, fantastic. Thank you for that. We're getting a few comments coming in, as you might expect, regarding LGBT life here. Says Marcus, we have always been accepted everywhere we go in Portugal. There's less of an organized gay life in the US. I'm not quite sure what that means. What is organized gay life? What does that mean?
There is less of an organized gay life than in the US. Maybe
Marcus to respond.
I can assume. I think it's true to say that the US, there's probably a lot more bars, probably a lot more clubs, but probably a lot more people that do things in groups as gay people rather than, So I guess Marcus is speaking of that kind of organization of, the fact that if you want to go off and do something, you can. And here, not we ever seem to get to do one, but we all seem to miss them. But here there are things like, there's a gay hiking, and there's that kind of, there are a few groups that round there, but I think it's probably less. I can appreciate it's probably less than you'd see in the US. Oddly enough, I never found the UK was that organised for many things. They didn't seem to do. No,
what I have to say though, that there seems to be everything seems to be much more hybrid. So gay visibility is in everywhere we go, either gay establishment or not. In the sort of identification of a gay establishment with the gay flags, with the rainbow flags, with the with all this visual signal seems to be less present here. Even if maybe an establishment where you go to will be 80% LGBT oriented, but
maybe that just comes down to the acceptance thing again. Maybe it's the fact that here people feel more comfortable, because I feel more comfortable. In fact, in certain ways, oddly enough, I feel a bit more comfortable sometimes being around here than I did in London, which is weird because I wouldn't have expected that. But it's just that, it's probably the fact that I think that in general, everything's a bit, I suppose you think it's not the big city and everything's a bit calmer, it feels safe and everything else in every other aspect. And therefore, there's no reason that I should feel any more endangered in other ways. It seems, I've spoken to some of our female friends also don't have the same feeling probably as you would of a woman walking around London on your own versus a woman walking around Lisbon on her own. You know what I mean? So there's a big difference there. And I guess that there are certain parallels with the two.
And that's perhaps that's a sign of cultural acceptance and integration as well, that there isn't a sort of ideological polarization and messaging going on. More like, well, what's the big deal?
Yeah.
I'm saying that I don't mean to sort of lessen anybody's challenges or difficulties with that, but that might be an indication, of course, that there is a great sense of integration, and people are just not that bothered.
Precisely.
No, we've seen display of public affection between same-sex couples in any sort of environment, from the tashka that we have downstairs to the bus
Street,
on the street. Visibility is rather broad and rather open, and I guess is not just confined to some to environmental places, which I guess is probably a rather good sign of integration.
And part of what we might thank and appreciate about Portuguese people is, you know, my impression, and our Portuguese friends here will tell us if this is true or not from their experience and perspective. But it just seems to me that Portuguese people, the culture is like, that's interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Rather than what's this possible challenge to our culture that you get in some countries, for example. Anything different is like, hold on a minute. Whoa, back up the truck. We're not sure if we like this or not. Portuguese people seem to be like, oh, okay.
Yes. In fact, the looks that I see that being given towards public, for example, display of affections by some older generations is more of curiosity than any other thing.
Yes. Yeah, that's very beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah.
In its way. Fantastic. I'm still quite shocked, I think it's very profound what you said before. Very moved by the idea of, of course, stab wounds hurt, but the continual paper cuts are what get to you over time. That's a very profound message and sentiment. So thank you for sharing that this morning on the Good Morning Portugal show. I've got Ian and Fabrizio from Project Lisboeta with us this morning, talking about what it's like to be in the LGBT. We're going to have Q. I think there's an I and a plus, but you get the gist of what we're talking about this morning, and how safe and welcoming it is to be from that community, from those communities and the sub-communities within that particular community and segment of life. Jean's here this morning. Hola todos, bon dia to you, Jean. And Lee McGrady's here as well. With regarding the weather, this year it seems we're in England with such consecutive and long rainy days. I'm so sorry about that. I don't think that's because of the English expats and it's sort of magnetically drawn with them, but it does seem to be the way, doesn't it, Ian? We've brought
it does.
Proper brummy weather.
Proper.
Oh, look, this Pete's having a little bit of a dig at our crypto community here. I was wondering where Tech Cowboy and Tech Cowgirl were and Big Boy Crypto Pants. They have been quiet, but it is rallying. It's rallying, Pete. It's not over yet. And of course, with the governments wanting to adopt digital currencies as well, it's an interesting time ahead with crypto for sure. It is beautiful sunny morning here. More on the weather in central Portugal at Fundão. And hola, Antonio. Big news. Fantastic. I was going to share. Isn't that great? I was going to share a video a bit later on from the Kleins, Andy Klein, a wonderful documentary filmmaker who's chronicling his journey to Portugal. And it's the waiting part that Andy talks about in the latest video. But that's over for you, Gene, which is fantastic. Got my D7 yesterday, hoping to be in Portugal by end of this year. That's fantastic. So, okay, you're going to be traveling within the next month and enjoying Tavira again. It is Tavira, I think, isn't it, Gene? But certainly the Algarve. And good morning to you. Great news. I'm really pleased to hear that. Going to walk my doggies now, trying to listen to the show while the phone is in my jacket pocket. Thank you, Matty. That's commitment. Is that a phone in your pocket, or are you just pleased to see me? It's not only a phone in my pocket, it's a phone that is loudly and proudly playing the Good Morning Portugal show this morning. Carl made an offer on that big Villa Moura house. It's a hilarious video. It really is. It's how the rich and famous might live in the Algarve. You are 3 noughts short. No harm in putting an offer in, though. We might talk a little bit about that strategy of negotiation with Fabrizio and Ian, because, of course, that's part of what they do, buyers agents buyers representatives in Lisbon. I learned today, says Suze, that I can stay at a current address in Vancouver until Portugal move is finalised. Yay! The house was pre-booked for a month. July. So Taxi and I are looking for a July house sit. Okay, so you can stay there until you move apart from July and have a little bit of a change in the summer in Canada. We are speaking Portuguese. Well done, Pete. Keep it up with your Portuguese in the comments. And watching Sam Bankman-Fried this morning, who looked like a human vibrator, and just wondering why so many people fell for the Ponzi scheme. Is that the crypto exchange that collapsed? Is that what he's referring to? So you guys are nodding as though you know a thing or two about the crypto scene.
Well, and because I know I recognize the name now.
Right. Okay.
I've always avoided it. That's the only thing I know about it.
I think there's more to it than meets the eye with that, as I think as we'll probably never discover, as with most of these things. Fiona's here as well. Good morning, Fiona. Morning. As I joined, Mrs. M exited stage left, returned briefly, and vanished again. Yes, we were moving the studios around. Yes, we have another move around, and the signal wasn't too good. She's absolutely fine, as far as I'm aware. The real sign of whether she's okay is whether she brings me a cup of coffee, and then I'll know for sure, because I can't check from here. Oh, Catedral is a disco. That was from a lovely picture. Look at this, guys. This is Portimao, and you can see.
Wow, okay.
Isn't that a great location for a club? Come out of the club at the early hours of the morning and wander on the beach and refresh your face in with a little bit of Atlantic water. Fantastic. Yeah. Thank you very much for that. And morning from Darren J with a nice array of flags there.
Hi, Darren. Hi, Darren.
Are the white ones his Y fronts that he's waving about this morning?
I suppose, yes.
Yes. Okay. I wanted pictures of fires, apparently. Yes, of course, that's what it was. It was for a little bit of metaphorical or a psychological warmth. That's why Bill very kindly and thoughtfully sent pictures of his stereo pellet burners.
Marcus and Bill, I told you they used to live just around the corner.
Yes, Marcus and Bill, of course. And it may be cheaper to burn the money than the pellets these days.
Yeah.
It feels people will feel like it's getting like that. Okay. Pete saying we learned a whole lot of categories yesterday from Naked Attraction. Oh, so wolf, otter, cub and bear. Do you think Carl is an otter? Well, do you know, I have been described as an otter in my time. It's true. These are. Can we explain here? These are. Naked Attraction is quite the education, isn't it? Let's face it.
We don't watch Naked Attraction, but we can address all those denominations by experience.
Denominations. Are they?
All those. So how do you say? All those tribes.
Demographics.
Tribes. Yes.
Tribes. Okay.
Tribes.
I mean, essentially, are they sort of behavioral / body types as well?
In a way, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So they all refer to wolf, otter, cub, and bear. Some, almost all of them refer to people that quite hirsute. So there's a percentage is referred to the percentage of body hair that they.
Hairy guys. Okay.
A wolf is I think I'm not aware of the wolf.
I'm not sure,
but I guess a wolf is a grey bearded gay man.
Okay.
More advanced age. An otter, which is a quite is a stocky, younger, bearded version of a bear, which could be a little bit fuller in figure.
Yeah. Fuller in. I love your descriptions. Yeah. Fuller in figure and her suit.
Yes. And a cub is a younger bear, therefore a bear in training.
Thank you so much.
You're more than welcome.
Okay, very good. So if I'm entering myself into those classifications, perhaps I am making more of a transition from otter to wolf these days with the silver. And it might be. I said it might be behavioural. So
you might be in a transitional state. This is very true. You might be proudly classify yourself as a silver fox, going to the sort of animal kingdom spectrum. So embrace that for the time being. And then I'll let you know when you move from categories.
If you don't mind me texting me. When
I'll keep you posted. I'll text you.
You're going a bit too wolf there, or a bit on the berry side or whatever. Okay, yes, case like a category.
Yeah, they do.
Very true. Okay.
They do.
Oh, why was it yesterday? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. That sounds like a very philosophical.
Why not?
Why not, Darren? Why not, Darren? Come on, be a bit more open-minded. Heading to Ocean, living the dream in Portimao. Heading to Ocean. How about that? Atlanta, where Victoria comes from, has a very organised and vibrant gay community. Lived there for many years. So I think that we're talking about social life, aren't we? I thought an organised gay life was getting up at 7:30 every morning and making sure the house is clean. That's not that kind of organisation.
No,
more on the social side.
We're striving for that, but we're not there.
Okay.
We're not there.
There's only one gay bar on the Albufeira Strip. Now, I don't know if this is true or not. We can take Darren's word for this. But of course, the important part of forgive me if I enter into any stereotypes or get myself into trouble with what I'm saying, but I mean, part of gay life is clubbing, isn't it? For sure. And some of the best clubbing I ever did in London was at gay clubs or clubs and nights out that had a very high percentage of gay attendees. Let's put it that way.
Big up.
Heaven, like heaven for perhaps one of the most legend, apart from American nightclubs of great note and reputation. Heaven was an extraordinary place to go to, wasn't it? And was a scene setter, I think, and a category creator.
Yes, definitely.
How is that huge? But the size of it at that time, when gay bars or clubs were sort of small little holes.
Yes.
Small little doors and
it was huge, wasn't it, in Charing Cross there. I did find the mirrored urinals a little bit difficult, I've got to say. That level of detail.
Also because in London tends to be quite cold, so it could be quite the reflection might be
that would be not exactly what you want to see. Okay, all right, very good. So how is it in Portugal then, the clubbing scene, would you say? I mean, we've only got one gay bar on the Albufeira Strip. If you're a gay guy wanting to come and enjoy yourself in Portugal, is it the best? Is it among the best of the nights out and clubbing scenes in the world?
We're not huge on the clubbing late night scene at the moment. In Lisbon, there's quite a bit in terms of bars and clubs.
But not a lot of clubs. It's not sort of it's not a huge scene. That's one thing.
I wouldn't say it's like Berlin or London or any of this. I mean everything. But on the other hand, you will go to a club in London and at 11 o'clock everything will be already being hot and going on. And then in Lisbon, you will go somewhere and nothing comes alive before 2 o'clock in the morning, and then you will go ahead until 6. Without any sort of problem. So
amazing. So am I gleaning from this then that perhaps Portugal culture is best suited to the more a bear in slippers rather than a cub in full nightclubbing gear? I think so. I think I've come to a conclusion there, which I could.
Yes, it's not that sort of full on techno nights and strobing lights and glow sticks. Realness, but I guess there is a club scene which is quite alive. Obviously, the size of the city is smaller, therefore everything kind of shrinks.
Yes, of course. Yeah, let's remember that. Of course. Okay. Well, thank you for that. Are there any other questions, anybody? Please put them in the chat. And we're having a very open-minded and fun conversation this morning. I think it's important to bring a little bit of humour to the debate as well as acknowledging how difficult it can be for people from the LGBT community. Okay, so hold on a minute. We've got a lot of comments that I've missed here. Portimao, not so much then, but loads of activities, theatre, dinner parties. So some organised activities there. We had watched everything else. There are lots in Lisbon and Porto. It must be more difficult out here in the countryside, but we know quite a few lesbian and gay couples out here, and they are warmly welcome. Glad to hear that. It's lovely to get this feedback, isn't it? That this is generally speaking people's experience of being in Portugal.
Exactly.
Jean, yes.
We haven't really seen
anybody. Because we always tend to pinpoint to people that has problem with to discrimination to smaller places, or people that is older in age, or it's another stereotype the other way. We sort of expect a smaller place to have more this dynamic than the big city. And for example, we travel all around the country. We never really experience any of the fraction of a second flinch that I told you before.
The flinch, again, something that I wouldn't have thought of, but it will be a visceral experience, won't it? If you find a little bit of electricity or a reaction or something, the flinch, that's very interesting.
And it's something very weird that you can capture in the air.
Absolutely. Yes, and I think again a lovely compliment for the Portuguese people, the Portuguese community at large. Again, it's that thing of like whatever, and I think that comes from Portuguese people having travelled a bit, right? So even if you're in the smallest village, as I was in, I think it wasn't Fundão, it was Alpedrinha, I think. Went into a tiny bar there, cafe, and saw that the what's the that drink that's available in November. Anyway, from the grapes, the early drink from the grapes, and that was just announced, and people were drinking it in there, and watching the TV and stuff. And I think because even in the tiniest and remotest of places, people have moved and travelled for work, and it's perhaps it's this business of travel broadens the mind. You may have been all around the world, national service with the older guys, perhaps, or working abroad, going to France, going to Africa, going to South America, and then coming back to a small village, but broadened in the mind and open in mind and heart. It would appear to be. I don't know that for sure, but that's what I'm guessing.
I believe that could be the sort of reverse, this coming back with something that you did experience about.
Yes.
Or I guess he also a lot changed after the Salazar regime. So there's a very recent story of repression.
Yes.
And then this lead was sort of lifted from society and from personal freedoms, and a lot of things are changed since then. So I guess the memory of repression made everybody more accepting, I suppose.
I think there's a lot in that. If it's recent in the memory, within a generation or two, that brings
also because the journey to equality for gay people, and all the other letters did come right after the falling of the regime.
Yes. Yeah, amazing.
70s.
Okay, Gene, we're all over the place in terms of comments and input, but no, that's not unusual here in the mornings. Very happy to get my visa yesterday before the potential strike. Yeah, well done, Gene. That's such good news for you. It is Bifana Samana. I saw you smiling at some of the representations we had of Bifana the Vampire Slayer. This is our poster. It's a nice print, that, isn't it? Could you see that?
Beautiful. Yeah,
the Bifana Samana. Thank you, T Duck, for that. Pete, not a fan of what he saw with all that mustard on somebody's I think it was Bifana Slug's mustard.
No,
Bifana. You have to taste the red wine it's cooked in. Would you agree? Do you like a Bifana?
We do. With a lot of mustard.
A lot of mustard. We put on the Bifana and on the bread just to make sure that it's well absorbed.
It sounds like you have quite the Bifana science going on there. Quite the ritual. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. And from Bifanas to steak and kidney pies, Taxi ate half of a frozen steak and kidney pie that was thawing on the high kitchen counter. I was upstairs making Christmas art. Moral of the story, don't be upstairs making Christmas art, and the little bugger can jump. So I hope you enjoyed that, Mummy's steak and kidney pie, you naughty boy. Amazing. I know the rainbow flag, but what's the other one? That was his underpants, I think, wasn't it? The that we saw earlier on, the white flag. What do we think?
Yeah, it's peace, maybe.
Yeah. Could be, couldn't it? Could be. Well, yeah, I think, Darren, maybe you can explain your lovely range of emojis there. Yeah. Oh, think it's lesbian, but not entirely sure. But who? I mean, we just love a flag anyway. He's just
Just
whatever.
a flag.
Yeah.
Just put it there. Someone will embrace it, whatever.
Okay.
It's fabric. We use it.
Call those rocks.
Yeah.
Hadley Krumelek. Dus Almendras, a prehistorical site with 95 rocks about 7,000 years old, located near Evra in the Alentejo. So
We want to
joke,
do it.
isn't it lovely? The joke is, things go so slowly in the Alentejo that they haven't tidied the garden yet. But there they are, the 95 rocks that are 7,000 years old, like a Stonehenge kind of vibe going on in the standing stones. How did they do that? How did they move those stones? We'll never know. Probably another thing we'll never know there. Okay, let's go back to the comments there. I very nearly signed up for Netflix for the first time ever, then got distracted. The sun came out. Perhaps. There's quite a lot of flags now. It's like the United Nations or the Park of Nations, isn't it now? Why not, says Pete as well. Who doesn't have a flag? Well, unless you're from Northern Ireland. All right, Pete, thank you. And that was the earlier comment about comparing to Italy, which you did, of course, Fabrizio. And we have had zero problems with government offices as well. Full recognition of our marriage without asking for extra documentation. So no flinch there. Lovely to hear, says Pete to you. And probably the first time I've ever heard anyone say that they've had no problem with Portuguese folk. Well, in that department anyway, Pete. The UK is certainly not a paragon of virtue. My best friend was sacked as a teacher because of his sexuality and status. I think Brexit has made divisions worse. You've both lived in UK. Would you care to comment?
Yeah. We lived in London, so I don't know how London is representative of the UK in general.
True, but I can imagine it happening. It wouldn't. That's why I say I think that's the conversation earlier on. There's always that little bit of a. He was a bit new to the game. I think that's one thing I realise about Portugal actually is that for many of these rules, Portugal's now a bit old. It's matured a bit. Kind of a lot of these things came out 2008, 2010. So you think you're kind of getting a generation through where all the legislation was always out there. And I think certainly probably the true is Italy. Italy's come quite late to the game. You know what I mean? So it's still playing catch up, and there's still all those uncertainties about is this a good thing? Is this a bad thing? Whereas Portugal seems to have had a recognition, well, even further back for many things. But I think probably that helps. But the UK probably came quite late to the game as well, didn't it? A little bit with talking about things, but there still seems to be a big commentary about what's going on in the gay world, what's not going on in the gay world.
Well, that's a very interesting point you make, isn't it? That talk is one thing, isn't it, and actually doing something is another, of course.
It's another thing, and there's still kind of there still seems to be resentment sometimes that there is a gay club. Why does it have to be a gay club? Why does it have to be this? But I think until you're in a minority, sometimes you don't realise that you do need a place to escape in some places where you can be yourself without criticism. So,
but also that quite representative of a journey, realistically. Of a journey towards no acceptance, but a journey towards existence, I suppose. Because what you are denied of as a so-called minority group, which is
remind me like not now.
What's that? Is your Bitcoin just gone up? Have you had an alert?
My laptop was going weird. I will say, but for example, there's also a city like London, which has thrived on its LGBTQ history, let's say. Many places which are gay establishment are closing down. One of the historical one, the Vauxhall Tavern.
Oh yeah.
Hugely important place where everyone in the UK comedy scene has started from Lily Savage is actually now down to be sold.
And is the point you're making that for want of a better word, integration and acceptance has happened, so there's no need, or is this a victim of something more sinister?
No,
I think it's the fact there's a kind of truth that says that we probably shouldn't be having this conversation now because it should we should all just be thinking we just integrated and everything.
Yes.
We woke up one day and everything had changed. And I think the truth is that the only reason why we have to keep coming back to it is because it can also change the other way. I mean, strange enough, talking with Italy, obviously gay marriage has become recognised, but now with the new right-wing government, they are now talking about maybe they should reverse that legislation. And it's very rare to think that you might be in a situation where you thought you were progressing and actually suddenly you maybe take a step back.
Yes.
And of course, that's not unique to Italy or many other countries. So it's nice to find somewhere. I mean, here, that is one thing. Maybe there's not such a big gay scene because it is so easily integrated. You know, I wouldn't have a problem going somewhere else.
Yeah.
But for example, but this is as paper cuts that we spoke about earlier on. For example, as in the UK, for example, we could go to, you know, wear ostrich feathers and go to the club in London, but then you wanted to donate blood as a blood donor.
Yeah.
One of the question was, what's your sexuality? And up until not very long ago, as gay men, for the association or the assumption that we were more subject to any sort of sexually transmitted disease, which is related to blood, we were banned from giving blood.
Yeah.
It's paradoxical. I really love the point you're making. It's like, why are we even having? And it's easy for people to say that. Why are we having this conversation? It's not a difficulty anymore. But I guess you do have to be aware, don't you? Alert. And the idea of tolerance is a funny one, isn't it? Because it's like, well, I don't want to be tolerated. It's not about, because that's really condescending and patronizing, isn't it? To be tolerated.
It is. Because I don't think that we. Well, I speak from all of us in everything we embody there is different from the status quo.
Yeah.
The tolerance, I don't really ask to be tolerated.
Yeah.
And I'm not really asking to be accepted or respected because I'm not asking for anything.
Yes.
I demand it.
Yes. Yes. Okay.
It is because those rights as a human being are there for me. Therefore, I'm not asking for it.
Yeah.
I do demand. It seems quite strong as a position, but it's the reality that we sometimes feel.
Yeah, once you drop your guard, then you don't know where you don't know where you go next. I guess that's
and hence our conversation. And we will conclude with whether the World Cup has been useful or not, because it was part of what inspired us to have this conversation today. It was a little bit of a push, wasn't it, to have a long overdue conversation.
I think the interesting part about the World Cup, I think, and what has actually happened, and is just the fact that it's been misunderstood as to why somebody might wear the One Love flag in a way, because it wasn't realistically out of disrespect. Well, could be considered to be out of disrespect, but for the government of that country.
Yeah.
The reality of it is that we all know that, unfortunately, football's had a history of racism, sexism, homophobia, comments that have been made both on and off the pitch, sort of thing. I mean, I remember I can't remember his name actually. There was a very famous Italian football manager who came out once with, there will never be a gay football, it's never be a gay football player, just professional football player, because, you can't be gay and be a footballer. So I think that the only reason why the One Love thing was significant is it's because it's not only the fact that you should be saying to people, stop making the slur on the thing, that he plays like a gay player, something, just because realistically you're belittling that person by saying he's less of a man.
Yes.
Just accept it for the fact that why is the next high-ranking football player not a gay man? You know what I mean? It's kind of, you see what I mean? It kind of comes into that. And I think that bit of it should be said, you need to remove all that stigma.
Yes.
Because you're probably saying that a lot of people, maybe you won't find a very good professional football player because they're worried about the criticism that I go through.
Sure.
And
not only in football, in other areas of life potentially as well. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So it was just another one of those things. So, I think that's just That's
And
just
a
the way
mixed
it
and a
is.
mixed blessing, perhaps, then, because it has put to the discussion, the conversation on the
yeah,
agenda,
exactly.
brought it out into
Yeah.
the open, and we were hoping to see some decent football, and sometimes that's happened as well. But the conversation is being had as well, so that's great. We have a lot of lovely comments, which is fantastic, and a bit more niching here. That's quite a niche Facebook group, isn't it? The Bears Retiring in Europe Facebook group, for anybody who might want that. Thank you for that, Moaz. In larger cities in the US, there's a gay bowling league, gay knitting circle, a gay everything. Here, there is much more integration, which is an adjustment for America. That's interesting, an adjustment for Americans on that basis. That's a very interesting cultural adjustment in terms of how Americans tend to operate and think in life as well. That's a very interesting. Thank you, Marcus, for that. Who says hello, boys? Which I think is a little bit overdue.
Hi.
We all had a long conversation. US is not safe for many groups lately. Way too much violence. So sad, says the OLP who's here this morning. Lovely to see you. And sorry that you have to report such an awful comment on what's going on in the States there. I'll be in Mon Carapacho, says Gene. Thank you for that. We've been talking so long, fellas, that he's back from his dog walk now. I hope you were able to hear what was going on while you were out and about. Was it a nice walk, Matty? Always is when the sun is shining. Sunny day in Pombal. The flag emoji hasn't translated correctly to your screens. That's why it looked like your underpants and not the lesbian flag, I think. Bon dia from the Saya region. I've been eating some of your cheese recently, Baddy.
Yeah, amazing.
It is amazing. And I think I've got a photograph. I asked for a mountain photograph from Baddy because we saw the view from her house. It's here somewhere. Under acceso rapido, which isn't turning out to be true. Not rapido at all. No, I'll have to come back to that. We'll catch up tomorrow with all the photos that I've missed out during this week. Do prompt me if you've sent in a good one and thinking, Munson, why haven't you shown my picture? It's because of we've been overwhelmed by beautiful pictures, and we'll do our best to catch up tomorrow. Amazing blue skies in Porto for Connie and Hank there. Good morning to you both. What's this? Now starting a fire in my outside kitchen. Careful, Matty. And look at this. Love is the answer. So one love. Yeah. There's only one love, isn't there? And many ways of expressing it, of course. I volunteered at the gay centre in Phoenix, says Moaz. And when we got calls from young gay men who want to come out to their families, that they should give the family time to... And what happened to the rest of that comment? Oh, we didn't get to see the end of that. And we heard, didn't we, recently that Thanksgiving was such an opportunity.
Time to digest the information, I suppose.
Maybe time to digest the information as well as the turkey, because we heard that Thanksgiving was a time where some, happy Thanksgiving. And by the way, I'm gay. Oh, okay. Interesting. Let's watch the game. Let's have a beer together. That'll be the best. Carl, if you want to know, you'll have to strip down so we can. So would that be my true? How I would truly find out if I was a wolf or an otter or a bear? I have to strip down for that, like Naked Attraction. Maybe. Okay. I'm not doing that this morning, Marcus. I'm not saying I'm never going to do it, but I'm just thinking I don't want to overshadow the serious matter of the discussion we're having by me being naked here. It could be quite undermining.
And also, it's quite cold.
And thank you very much for protecting my reputation there. Pete is an author. Definitely. Carl, send you a pic of the fire. Oh, since we were just talking about fires. Yes, that's going to be good. We'll have a video probably of people's fires just so that other people can keep warm around them. I did watch some, but I also support people who want to boycott it. Oh, so this is the World Cup. I think the poor people who are being persecuted for being humans. That's one way of putting it for sure, isn't it? Thank you, Darren, for that. Pete, give the family so we carry on. Give the family time to process the coming out, and the same goes for countries. That's an interesting point, isn't it? These things can take time, not maybe as quick as we'd like them to be, but coming out may take time for people to adjust. It's not fair to a very conservative all of a sudden to change their ways. Well, that's very understanding and compassionate, I think. What do you reckon?
Well, there's two situations that we're addressing here. Because family is your family.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you should be loved.
Yeah.
No matter what, really.
Yeah.
So I shouldn't be, as a parent, we're not parents. We haven't got the lifestyle or the patience or the generosity to be parents.
Oh, mate, those walls behind you with felt tip on as well. That'd be heartbreaking, wouldn't it? You should see You should see the walls here. No crayons.
Yeah, no, but that is probably the best part. That's the best part. But if we were, I suppose, we would have loved our kids whatever they choose to be or happen to be. So that's two different situations we're talking about. If the same for countries. This is also, I can understand that the process from a conservative environment to a more progressive one could take time to adjust.
Yeah.
Depends what happens in between, though.
Yeah.
And also, on the other hand, which should also refer to oppression or to countries like Qatar, for example, which they're not adjusting to anything. Our lifestyle is a criminal lifestyle punished by law. So what should be really being understanding there? I suppose very, very little.
Okay.
But I take the point. I take the point to the observation.
Yeah. Thank you, Moaz, for that. And Pete, why, out of interest, were you watching Naked Attraction? Well, I think he's Naked Curious Otter. That's simply the reason there. Has your be on the television application come back? Oh, Pete's going to be on Naked Attraction. Keep us informed about how that's going, Pete, if you will. Moaz also saying, let's not forget that Western countries are not always accepting of the LGBT community. Yeah, and that was a fair comment, I think, wasn't it, about Qatar? Qatar did get like undue heat, possibly, with all the other countries saying, yeah, Qatar. It's like, well, let's give Qatar a good whipping for this, when in fact many other countries drag their feet as well. Well, good point. Well made there, Moaz. I love the gay clubs in London, says Moaz. And more consolation for me. Thank you very much. Items in the mirror may be smaller than they appear. Hold on a minute. No. Okay, well, I'm just going to move on anyway. It is not the kind of person you are that counts. It's rather than the label other people give you as well. I guess both are true, right? You know, the labels help and hurt and harm, don't they? But you know, we got to get that balance right. The Prophet will know all the best gay bars in London, especially if you like American hipsters. Another specialism there, American hipsters. There's a gay hotel in Lisbon. I don't remember the name, but I saw the advertisement on Facebook. So there you go. In fact, if you're in need of that, a particular type of venue, we see lots of same-sex couples in Lisboa. No one pays attention. There you go.
Precisely.
Yeah, nice corroboration of what you're saying this morning, and what a lot of people seem to be saying this morning. Well done, Portugal. We're proud of you and delighted to be here on that basis. Sent a pic of my area in Sintra, Antonio F, via WhatsApp. Sintra's hills in the horizon. I'll show that tomorrow. That's fantastic. The Pina Palace, too far away to easily be seen. Wouldn't being accepted mean that the LGBTQ folks or anyone can go into any bar and be accepted, e.g. not need their own place? Having your own special place sets you apart, whatever set you belong to. I think you've addressed that point, haven't you? It's part of the journey, right? And why not?
And I guess it also they seems to be less and less present.
Yeah.
And also as gay men, women, and trans individuals seems to now levitate less and less towards those establishments. But we have to recognize that the existence, just the existence of a place that could be addressed as a gay establishment in the past meant that we could actually exist. Rather than drinking and dating, which was probably the reason we all went.
But Bifana politics again. You're never far away from Bifana politics. Must have mustard is the traditional way. So Pete, I think maybe a balance of flavors. The red wine marinade. Mrs. M, she had a recipe that had beer, like a liqueur and wine in it for the Bifana. Very complex flavors. And I would agree with bit of mustard there. No, the flag hasn't translated to your software. It's the transgender flag and looks like shades of blue and pink on a Windows PC.
Okay.
There. Love the big gay ice cream store in New York City. Need one of those. What is a big gay ice cream store? Is it a big gay ice cream store, basically? It's not a euphemism.
If there is, I will go.
Yes, I'll come with you.
But yeah,
All right. It was in Vancouver Gay Village today on the way to the doctor. Most businesses of all sorts had a rainbow flag in the window plus rainbow crosswalks. There you go. Well done,
what about
Vancouver.
your doctor?
What about your doctor? Did you ask?
Yeah, exactly.
It's a bit proactive. Crypto continues to fall down 0.8. There were the crypto bashers are in the house this morning. They always, Pete and Portuglish, always like to see the demise of crypto. We'll see. HODL. It's a long-term view. London was certainly not easy. If you remember the gravestone HIV adverts, my friend was a numbered patient and was sacked and persecuted. It's easy to forget how intolerant a place can be. Yes, indeed. Well said. Phoenix in the 90s had a vibrant gay life and so many social clubs, but also a problem with gay hate crimes. Marcus,
and it hasn't disappeared to see what happened in Colorado last week.
Yeah. The group in power doesn't get to tell us if we need to talk about this or not. Okay, good point, PT Country Bear. The fact that it is not easily recognized means that we do need these conversations. So thank you so much for the suggestion this morning as we draw to a close. I've really enjoyed talking to you. Integrated, included, embraced, yes, loved, basically. That's it, isn't it? In a nutshell, how about that? And Gay Bifana.
This is great. This is the rebranding.
Yes,
for the future.
I'd go there. And you spoil it by adding mustard. He won't let it go. He will not let it go. Come on, we know you like a bit of mustard on your sausage, Pete. It's better.
It's the spice of life. Yeah. It's the tingling sensation of being alive.
Yeah, Pete. Oh, superb. Last words to you then, Ian. We haven't even talked about Project Lisboeta. Maybe we'll do that next time because you are a resident here, aren't you? If people want to find out about your wonderful business, they can go to projectlisboeta.com. Really appreciate you. Thank you for being here this morning. Thanks for having this conversation.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, I think it was
and
great.
you know, we can say, can't we? You know, in a generalized way, well done, Portugal, as well. Isn't it nice to be able to report what we have done, whilst, as you say, keeping an eye on the horizon and being vigilant as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. Exactly.
All right. Late here. 2 a.m. Look at this. OLP stayed up to join in this conversation as well. Off to bed. Have a great day in Portugal. So nice to hear from Ian and Fabrizio, and always great to listen to you, Carl. Thank you so much. OLP.
Thank you so much.
Sleep well.
Here's a lovely big round of applause for you both. Have a great day, and missing you already. Look forward to seeing you next month. Ciao, ciao.
Yeah, will do.
Absolutely.
Okay. See you then.
Bye.
Thanks very much.
There they go, Ian and Fabrizio. Wasn't that fantastic? And let me just take that banner off the screen there and make way for a lovely, somewhat poignant video. This is where spare a thought for people who are waiting for their D7s to come through. It's the waiting. It's the difficult part. I mean, in many ways, there's not a great deal that can be done about it. But at the same time, it's not being made any easier, we can say. So spare a thought, and lots of love to anyone who's waiting. And I think people, the other side of that, like Jean, as we found out this morning, will tell you, you get there in the end. You get there in the end, and I'm sure other people will support that message as well. Forgive me for anything I've forgotten about this morning. It's been a lovely conversation, and one we're proud to have had here on the Good Morning Portugal show. And we'll see you tomorrow with Jenny for some Feel Good Friday action. And here's that video from Andy Klein, who's very graciously allows us to play his wonderful videos. Take care, bye for now, and have a great day.
I hit the top of the roller coaster and it carried me down the rabbit hole. Then everything just slowed down. Then the waiting began for our D7 visas. The waiting is the hardest part. And I think it's going to drive me crazy. What are they doing? How long can it possibly take to check and approve some paperwork? Oh my goodness. Okay, I have to find a way to chill. There's nothing I can do now except wait. I can think about all the cool stuff that awaits us in Portugal, while avoiding thinking about the new paperwork hassles once we arrive. Breathe. It will happen in its own time.
There's a YouTube show full of fun facts you need to know. Carl rings the bell and the members show to the GMP morning show. Featured guests will come and they will blow your mind. The audience will do so in kind. The little vanity mixed with some insanity on the morning show with GMP.